Hi, green lovers. Today is March 22nd, 2020, and I wanted to talk to you about trellising. Now, many of you may be growing things like beans and cucumbers and maybe even some watermelon, small variety, that you're thinking about growing up vertically rather than letting them sprawl all over and kind of do that thing. And what can you use for trellising without necessarily needing to go out and buy something? If you saw a video that I posted just a few days ago regarding planting out this new 5x5 raised bed that I have built with pole beans, a little bit with sustainability in mind. You know, we're going through this COVID crisis. Beans are a great option, guys. And pole beans are great because they're indeterminate and they just produce a lot. So this is a rickety old ladder that I found lying in my backyard that I would not dare to try and use as a ladder. It is so old and kind of starting to fall apart, but what a great trellis, guys. I have planted pole beans at the bottom of each and I can't wait for them to start attempting to climb this thing that I've put up here for them. And I extended it with some bamboo poles to make like a little teepee type structure. So I think it's going to look very pretty when it is covered in beans. Right now it doesn't look like very much, but I think it's going to look really nice. And speaking of which, bamboo canes are another option. I found a whole bunch of bamboo canes being just given away for free by someone on Nextdoor. It was a bamboo fence that I'm now taking apart and I'm using as poles for pole beans to climb on. You can make little teepees out of them by tying the top together and sticking 3 bamboo canes in the ground. That's one option. So yeah, that's one thing that you can use that is pretty easily available and actually relatively cheap even if you want to buy them. One thing that I would do is take a walk around your backyard and maybe even inside your house and see what you've got that could be used as a vertical crawling trellising structure. So here I've got a metal fence that we used to use as a protective against our pool when the kids were young, and now it's just bits and pieces of it lying all over the yard. I've actually taken those and I am using them for trellising some of my bean plants in a raised bed that I will show you in just a moment. But yeah, you see I've got these just lying around in the backyard here and there, pardon the mess. And what great trellising options. They've been lying here for literally 10 years and we've not been doing anything with them. So here are 4 sections of the metal fence that I was just talking about that I have stacked up here, and growing at the bottom I've got a bunch of cucumbers and squash, and I've got some gigantus bean that I will talk about in a different video, but that's an experiment that I'm doing with a very, very large bean. It's actually the largest bean in the world. So I'm keen to see how that grows. Here is yet another option for a already made trellis. It's a wood pallet. All you need to do is stack it up on its short end, lean it against something sturdy, like maybe a shed or something like that, and plant some bean plants at the bottom of it, or some cucumbers, and they will love crawling up this thing. Here's another trellis that I decided to use. This was in my backyard, actually supporting grapevines, and the grapevines tend to grow, and they grow only from that side, and they kind of grow over the top, and they actually fill up this space. But there's always this odd open space over here because there's nothing growing here, so I figured, hey, why not try growing some red noodle beans? So it's going to be interesting to see the red noodle beans, if they get to that size, compete with the grapes once they both get to the top. So that's going to be kind of a fun experiment. I don't have too much faith in this space for the beans because it's pretty shaded. It's got the house and the shed on both sides and just doesn't get a lot of light, but we'll see how it does. Yet another great trellising option, tomato cages. What I typically do with my tomato cages is early in the spring season when the tomatoes are not yet big enough to need these cages, I actually plant sugar snap peas and other kinds of snap peas that will finish up their production just about the time that the tomato plants are getting ready to need these cages. So that way I'm dual purposing on these tomato cages while waiting for the tomatoes to get ready for them. Here's another trellising option, guys. I don't know whether you can see it quite well with the lighting. It's a little bit dark outside today. It's overcast and cloudy. But yeah, this is this T-post that I got from Home Depot. These were just lying around the house. Pushed them in the ground here, and I got some fencing wire, and I put it around it. And gosh, I don't know whether you can see. I'll probably put a photograph so you can see it a little bit better. But yeah, this has been in place. It's flexible. It's not as sturdy as a cattle panel, but I think it's taken on a pretty shape. It's kind of, it goes up to the T-post here, and then it kind of swirls around here over the top and then comes down that way. It kind of took on that shape naturally, and it's obviously a great climbing option for beans and any other kinds of climbing plants. And here are a bunch of different assorted things that I just walked around my garden and collected. All kinds of metal posts and PVC pipes and just wooden stakes and the broomsticks, and gosh, there's an old shoe rack over there. I'm sure I can figure out a way to use that as a climbing trellis somehow. But yeah, just stuff lying around the backyard, guys. And this is a messy part of my house, I'm sorry. But yeah, this is a bunch of bamboo canes that was being used. It's a fence, actually. You can roll it out and they're all connected together. I'm pulling them out one by one and using them as poles for my pole beans. I'm making little teepees, sticking 3 or 4 of them in the ground and then tying them together at the top. So all of these things will be used as trellising options. And this one here is probably going to be my most interesting trellising option that I'm going to be trying out this year. This is called the Three Sisters method. I'm growing corn here, and once the corn is about knee-high and sturdy enough, I'm going to plant some beans at the base of it, and they will, the idea is that they will crawl up and use the corn stem as a trellis or as a climbing pole. And at the bottom, around the base of the corn, you would plant squash, so that would sprawl around and it would provide a kind of ground cover. Corn requires a lot of nice moist soil, so that will help keep the moisture and serve as a living mulch. So I'm going to try that experiment and see how it does in this space. Keep you updated on that in a separate video. Well, that's all for this video, folks. I hope you enjoyed my scavenger hunt across my backyard to find trellising options, and I hope you learned something new. Please do like this video and subscribe to my channel to watch my journey through my 2020 growing season. And until next time, folks, live green and love your greens.